Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to Wednesday evening. I'm sorry I've been gone for a week. I'm your host, Eddie Abbott. This is absolute paranormal disclosure. Today, we're going to go into some topics you might not be comfortable talking about, or you might not be comfortable hearing about, for that matter, that are going to challenge the reality that we live in. And these are important topics. And if we are ready to accept that, if we're not ready to understand that what we believe in isn't real, then we're going to have a really bad time in our life, right? So, what I need you to do today is buckle up. I need you to understand that what I'm going to propose to you is a little different and it's a little outside of the box. So, you might not like what you hear, you might not agree with what you hear, but we're going to throw a concept out here, and I'm going to throw it out from things that I know, things that I'm aware of, and things that are shaken out. As an intelligence analyst, I analyze everything you could possibly imagine. I mean, I'm always analyzing things. It's something that I have always enjoyed. So when I look at the topic of not being alone in the world, of aliens visiting our Earth, I look at it from the point of view that I already accepted it as a young child, that there was no way, that God had only made us. There were pyramids on the earth that were here long before I was born, before you were born. These people were not primitive. We believed them to be primitive, ancient beings when they really were not. We have lost the ability to convey our presence on the earth to the past. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is we can look at ourselves and we can't really imagine what we are doing now happening back then. So maybe I stated it incorrectly. We have not been visited. Visitation means they've come and they've gone home. They are not going home. This is their home. These pyramids were built to honor gods, is what we believe. But I'm telling you, the ones in North America match the ones in Egypt. And there are pyramids in every continent on this whole planet. So we have to look at the the reality that this wasn't some kind of a mistake. This wasn't some kind of coincidence. There's an alien codex right here. We see it now. This is an alien codex. The face is not human. And when they discover these things, we look at them and we are kind of in awe, but we more or less as people don't accept the reality that this is not just some kind of concept that they had back in the day of making something, artistic. The eye shape, the head shape, the writing, all of that. It's a codex. It's a way to solve language barriers that we might have had with beings from other planets. Now, we've learned throughout our time that our languages have come from them. But when they came here, how did they get here? So we know that they can travel beyond the speed of light. They can open a wormhole, but where do wormholes exist? There, if you look at the codex and if you follow all of the signs, they point us in the right direction. These pyramids were not just buildings for the gods. They are actually purpose. They're lined up in a pattern that matches the planet Orion, or the constellation Orion. They're not in a straight line at an angle. They're off center just a bit. So they knew what they were doing when they built these pyramids. They built them to, emulate Orion. And the way the pyramids are shaped, they're built with, if you measure them, there's 365.25 blocks on each side of this pyramid. 365.25. That is a year on Earth, exactly a year. Now we're going to look at these primitive beings and we're going to wonder why they did this. How did they know how to do this? How did they move the blocks, right? We know they didn't. There wasn't a bunch of slaves pulling on ropes with greasy things. No, it didn't happen that way. The Sphinx. The Sphinx is older than the pyramids. What does the Sphinx represent? Now, it's believed the Sphinx represents the sun god. And what's below the Sphinx as he sets, right? He's got his two paws out like a lion's body. But underneath the Sphinx is a doorway. Under the head of the Sphinx is a doorway. We look through the constellations, triangulum. We believe this is where the creator has come from. And it's not only in our ideal, it is in hieroglyphs, it is in measurements. So the constellation triangulum, we believe, is the absolute place where God exists, where heaven would be. Now, this is a belief that a lot of people might not accept because how could God live on a planet or in a solar system? Or maybe, just maybe, our creator is the solar system. We are inside of our creator. There's all kinds of theories we can go through. We could be a thought. What if we're the thought of our creator and we exist? We're energy, right? Throughout time, we've been trying to figure out who we are, where we're from, what are we about, why were we created? When are we going to accept the fact that we have not just shown up? This isn't our first time here. We don't accept reality. We won't accept reality as long as there's religious dogma holding us back, telling us it's sin to do this or think this way or to believe this way or use your brain that God gave you and try to figure it out. Now, what we're seeing here is a deity. In Egypt, they believed her to be evil. Her name was Lilith, but Lilith was not evil. Lilith represents the creator God, basically. She is an immortal. She's holding in her hands two symbols of immortality. She cannot die. The wings represent somebody that could fly. It doesn't mean they had wings. It means that they had the ability to fly. And the way we look at hieroglyphs with all of their angel wings and the way the Bible depicts angels, we believe beings came down from the sky and that they flew with wings because we believed that our ancestors were ignorant when they were not. This was their way to tell us this is what this is designed for, actually, for us, to let us know that these gods that they worship came from the sky, but they didn't just come from the sky, they flew from the sky. So we have an ideal in our mind that beings that are depicted with wings are almost like a crazy thought that we think that our poor old ancestors had no concept of what reality was. When in truth, we're the ones that don't have any idea. As you can see, Lilith doesn't have normal feet. Lilith has claws, and that is depicting of a bird. So not only did Lilith have wings and claws for feet and talons on her calves, this is the way that they were able to try to come up with a way to tell us without knowing what our languages would be. Because we have this misconception that whatever we speak, wherever we're going in the future, they're going to understand everything that we have done here with our language. It's not true. Things evolve, languages evolve. They learn, you lose the ability to understand, and that's why there are scholars that study certain languages. You have linguists. So when you look at Lilith and you look at the claw feet, we don't look at Lilith as a disfigurement. We don't look at Lilith as evil. We look at Lilith as a being from another world that flew down to the ground in a disc. It flies. So the only way to depict is to let us know that the wings are what they came with, right? It's not like an airplane or something that we're thinking, or she's not a bird, she's not flapping her wings. Whatever she used to get here, she used in flight. It's all about flight. So we think that we came into the 1900s, the 20th century, where we started to fly. But if I told you there are many relics that depict flight, 10,000 years ago and further. We have evidence in our hieroglyphs. We are not the smartest creation on this planet, nor are we the first humans to evolve into a technological age. Just believe that every 5,125 years, mankind gets a reset. And we passed that in 2014. So 2014 marks the 5,125th year since the last great catastrophe destroyed the last human race. And if we've learned anything in our lifetime, things in a pattern are that way because they're repetitive. If you can repeat it, it's absolutely believable that it is meant to be. So when we look at these cave drawings, right, we're looking at ancient drawings. What are we seeing here? Do we see, are we seeing aliens? Do we see beings with halos? Do we see owls? You look at the owl, and the owl's used a lot as far as its wisdom, right? We think of owls being very wise. Why? Because they sit and they watch. They're observant. And when they attack, they're very vicious. But what we're really seeing, when we look at the eyes of the owl, are black holes. It's a depiction of black holes. Not only are these black holes something that we always want to worry about in space, but these black holes connect. This is a wormhole. You can see space and time has warped into these connected wormholes. So it's taking one part of the galaxy and it's adjoining it to the other part of the galaxy. And this is how time travel is possible. But it's not only there. This is going to be uncomfortable for a lot of people because every solar system is stacked, right? So we have our sun, and all the planets are stacked within that, away from the sun. And we, as humans, believe that to be a linear stacking. So we have the sun, and then we believe everything's going to go out in a straight line, and that's where the planets are. That's not true. So our solar system, like many other solar systems out there, is more of a cone shape, with our sun being at the bottom of the cone, and the planets are stacked upward, away from the sun. And we don't understand, or we don't have the conception that we aren't in a linear pattern. We don't circle the sun in a straight line. We are kicked up as planet Earth. So if this were the sun, the planets are stacked higher and higher and just off from one another, a little bit further out, right? Now you have to look at the way the sun is set. So the sun we know has its own gravitational field, which holds everything together, right? So we know we orbit our sun because of its gravity, which at one point, I don't even know how they did it, but they believed that the earth was the center of the universe and everything revolved around the earth. And you can look at the star constellations and realize that isn't even possible. But knowing that we all go around the sun, then we have to start wondering why, and in hieroglyphs and these cave drawings, and why do they depict the sun in different ways? Like the bull, as we see here, the bull, the cow has always been a worshipped animal. People have always worshipped animals throughout time, and we don't understand why. I mean, here in America, we don't get that. What would be the purpose of animal worship? Now, in other countries, the most worshipped animal in the world is the cow, where cattle mutilations happen. They are embedding embryos inside of cattle and they're letting them mature to a certain point. Then they abduct the animal. They remove all the important parts to help nurture that embryo inside into full growth. So the cattle mutilations are happening because the cows are sacred incubators. Everything around us is telling us a story. They were trying to tell us from the past what to expect. How does it work? where we come from. What are we doing here? We are on the surface of a planet. We can't hide from natural disaster. We are not the safest creatures there could possibly be on the earth. If we lived underground, we would be safer. But our biggest thing is the sun that we're getting to. You see here, this is a hole in the sun. And there is a giant hole in our sun. And it's been captured here by satellite imagery. Why is there a hole in our sun? What could the hole be? Why do we see craft larger than planets going up to our sun and taking plasma from our sun? Where are these gigantic creations coming from? How do they get here? If they're that large, how do they traverse the universe? It's something that big without crushing it into anything, crashing into it, destroying itself. How does that work? Where is this wormhole that they travel through? What if I told you everything points to our sun being a black hole? What if I told you the sun was a gateway and we just haven't figured out how to get to the gateway? As you can see here in this cave art, the exact shape of this cow. Now, it's a sacred drawing from the cave that shows us, it's telling us there is a hole in the sun that we use to travel, that everything that we ever needed to know, it comes through the sun. They're coming to us through the sun. Every star, everywhere, is a gateway. And why? Why can't we believe that? We have satellite imagery showing a gateway in our sun. We have imagery showing craft coming from our sun. We have found traversable wormholes. We have found them on Earth that lead to the sun. Scientists don't know how to open the wormhole. The wormhole is something that we just haven't figured out yet. But they're depicting it in these statues of the sun. See the gateway in the sun on the head of the cattle. There's a gateway in the sun. Why did they put the sun on the head of the cattle? Because everything here we're looking at is a sacred being telling us what we need to know. How do we get to where we need to go? How do we join the other beings from all over the unlimited universe that surrounds us? We are not alone. As you can see here, this is a depiction of the sun on the cattle's head. But I want you to see the broken part on this sun. You see the broken corner? Watch this. This is amazing because not only do we see a statue emulating a what looks like a fractured sun, but now when you look at that and you match it up to the satellite imagery of our sun, it is impossible to not understand. They were telling us something. There is the hole in our sun. Look at the hole. What do you see within the hole? What is in that hole is another gateway opening to another universe. And our ancient ancestors were trying to give us this information, but we look at them as heretics. We look at them as if they were crazy. But there it is. And our satellite imagery showing us the exact same shape that they did back in ancient times. We are beings that just doesn't, that we don't accept reality for what it is. I have a child that's trying to come in here. What are you doing? Sorry. So we, as a species, have not figured out what the truth is because we refuse to accept the reality that the ancient people, our people, tried to teach us. We believe that we are alone in the universe. Are we all waiting for this to happen? Is this what we want to happen? Is this what we believe is our fate? Like this image here in Nazca, we see a spider, right? But no, what we really see is the sun. The sun surrounded by 8 legs. The 8 legs are the 8 planets of our solar system. And they're showing us, they're teaching us in the most primitive way we could possibly learn, and we still haven't got it. We don't understand that there are so many signs telling us what we are, how we fit, where we need to go. What do we need to do? How can we break the bonds that we have put on ourselves from the dogmatic teachings of our lifetime? We have been taught so many things. This, a fork, was thought to be from the devil. When they came out with a fork and invented the fork, they said this was from the devil because if you couldn't eat hand to mouth, this interfered with that. It had to be from the devil. This is what mankind has become. Anything we don't understand is from the devil. Everything that doesn't fit the mold of life as we know it is from the devil. It can't be from the devil if it's an educational tool. If it's an improvement in our life, when they came out with medicine, it was from the devil. When there was a car made, it was the devil. Anything we do, airplanes, science, it's all from the devil. And why is that? Because people refuse to believe anything other than their religion. Anything that is not a religious teaching is from the devil. I'm here to tell you we cannot continue this kind of thinking. We are never going to advance. Our children and our children's children will never advance. We don't want to be stuck. Whether they're calling us, they want us to join them. They can't force us to join them. They can't force us to accept them. Do you think the world will be here forever? We need to wake up because the end of this world is going to come and we're not going to have the means to get away, to start over somewhere else. That day will come. It might not be in our lifetime, but it's going to happen. You have to accept the fact that things happen around us all the time that we don't understand, but they're happening and they're not from the devil. We are not intelligent enough to understand the end of this world can be avoided. Our survival can be avoided if we just accept the fact that we are not looking at the signs. We refuse to believe the signs. We are a destructive species. We need to stop. How can we move forward if we want to destroy everything that we see? Where do we fit? How will they accept us? They're not going to. No one wants a destructive species in the universe. We are here to grow, to learn. We are here to advance. Our Creator created us with the ability to think, with the ability to learn, the ability to teach. And we're failing. We're failing miserably. We can't get along. We can't look at each other without judging each other by our skin color, by our age. We can't understand how someone can be different and be the same. We look at the species of people that were here before us and we think they were primitive, they were Stone Age, but they were not. They were advanced, they were intelligent, and they're trying to teach us to be that way. They're trying to give us the signs that we are greater than what we believe. Life is not what we think it is. The depiction with the sun on the head, they're showing us. With the wings, they're showing us. You don't fly when you sit down. These statues, these drawings are all sitting, but they're traversing. You don't sit and traverse if you're flying like a bird. When are we going to open our eyes and understand they're teaching us? They're telling us with the best ability they have in a language that we would understand by crude, sometimes, childish looking art forms, drawings. These aren't just makeshift things that they were bored and they had nothing to do. Look at her, she's sitting down. You do not fly sitting down unless you're on a plane, unless you're in a vehicle that's flying. We don't understand what we're looking at. These were not supernatural beings. They did not have supernatural powers. They're showing us in all the beauty that their artwork is. All it's telling us is we need to fly. We need to travel out of this planet into what we call a Stargate. Where can we find the Stargate? We just talked about it. We have to accept the fact that even though we can't conceive getting anywhere near that sun without burning up, that we can. They have, and they do. When will we understand we are greater than we believe? When will we understand that flight is how they traversed? It wasn't with wings, as we see she's sitting and flying. If we told people 200 years ago this was a means of transportation, we would have been gods. They would have worshiped us. But we're not gods. We just had a better understanding of technology than they did. And the universe is waiting for us. They're waiting for us to wake up, to join them. How many species out there have that ability to traverse these wormholes? How many signs does it require before we understand? These are not just statues. These are not just carvings. These are stories. These are messages. These beings that depict something that just doesn't make sense to us. This is a bee goddess. Why? Why does she look like a bee? We know people don't look like bees. We know wings in any type of art from in the past. So I don't want to just narrow it down to hieroglyphics, but walls, in caves, in canyons, all over the planet have drawings. And these beings have wings. Everyone can't be telling the same story unless everyone saw the same thing. What they thought was a bee goddess. They were telling us that a female came from the heavens and flew down to our earth. And what we see when we look at this bee goddess that they depict in a carving isn't what we believe to be a human hybrided bee. It is showing us flight like a beetle. Everything has wings. It's about flight. They're telling us everything we need to know. We're not listening. We don't hear it because we don't want to hear it. It's an uncomfortable message. It goes against everything we were taught. But we need to look back and wonder how, why. The sun is depicted in so many different forms. Wings appear, so many different cave paintings, hieroglyphs. Why? Why? We know there are no beings with wings. We need to open our minds, people. We need to start looking at life differently than what we've been taught. They're teaching us what they want us to learn. They're teaching us what they want us to be comfortable with. This bee goddess isn't a bee goddess. She had flight. Their way to portray to us flight in different ways is with the wings and the bee. What does a bee do? It buzzes. We hear bzzz, right? They heard buzzing. Where did they hear buzzing from? Whenever this goddess arrived in to the planet, had that noise. It buzzed. They interpreted the buzzing with the bee, and they're trying to tell us this creature, this being came down to Earth. It flew and it made a buzzing noise. It had a sound. This is their way of telling us. This is their way of putting down what happened, not in letters, but in pictograms. You don't have to speak the same language to see a pictogram and understand what is going on with it. You have to open your mind. You have to think outside. You see, the bee goddess is not a bee. The bee goddess is an alien that came to Earth buzzing in her craft, like we would see an airplane with propellers. You know, when a prop plane or something goes by, what do you hear? You hear the buzzing of a bee. This is what they heard. This is what they interpreted. This is how they're teaching us. Somebody came to Earth sounding like a bee, but flying. This is what they saw. This is what they wrote. This is how they are trying to teach us. Are we willing to learn? Are we willing to accept everything we could ever believe is a lie? Everything. We are not the greatest thing to ever walk this earth. We are not so advanced, so far ahead of the world that we're in that we would shadow creatures from other times. We are the most ignorant beings to ever call ourselves intelligent. We have gotten into a dogmatic society. We refuse to see that everything that we've been taught is to control us. Everything that we believe is a lie. Like the bee goddess, we see what we see until we don't see it anymore. Then we open our eyes and we realize this is the truth. This is what was. This is where we're headed. And as a society, they want us to open our mind, to open our eyes, to see what they've left for us. They want us to have the idea in our head that we are greater than what we ever imagined we were. We will take that step together, but we have to open up our heart and our head and start looking at all the signs that surround us. The world isn't going to wait. The world won't be here forever. 5,125 years. The reset button gets pushed. And what we've learned is the patterns of the planet are not accidental. There is no going back from a pattern. Once it's in play, it's a continuous cycle. And we passed the 5,125-year mark since the last disaster wiped out the other civilization prior to us. And now, because we have been suppressed by our government and by religion, they're stepping forward. They're intervening in a slight way. They're waking us up. They're not going to the government because they know the government doesn't want us to know. They know everything. They know exactly what's going on our planet. They know that mankind is being held back. Here we see the sun god. What's below the sun god? A door. Why is there a door below the sun god on this wall? Why in Peru would this be? Believed to be a Stargate, but it's not a Stargate. It's their way of telling us in the sun, as you see the face of this crude being standing in a doorway. The head on the being is a sun. You see the rays. He's teaching us the way to the Stargate is through the sun. We need to figure out how to get through this. It's there. It's waiting for us. But our knowledge tells us we can't go to the sun. Our teachings tell us that there's no way to get close to the sun. But it is possible. They've done it. We need to wake up. We, as a species, need to accept the reality that we have been suppressed. They've lied to us. They are controlling us. They don't want us to know the truth. They don't want us to have the knowledge which gives us the power. They hide the knowledge under the Vatican, deep below the bowels of the Vatican. There are so many teachings that tell the truth. How do you control a species that is awake? You're easy to control in your sleep through your dreams because you're vulnerable. They want us asleep. Although we're awake, we're not awake. We see signs around us, yet we don't see. We don't believe. We refuse to accept that they were telling us how to accomplish our future. We refuse to believe they had knowledge we do not. They knew how to get to other universes. They knew how to travel. Where did the Mayans go? They just disappeared. Wow. Wow. Ask yourself how a collective disappears off the face of the earth and leaves behind ruins. And how do we sit back knowing that is the story we have been taught and not question the reality of that story? How do we not look at these carvings and wonder why? Why all that energy? Why all that work? What were they trying to do? They weren't doing it to be artistic. They weren't doing it to create a beautiful place. They were doing it to teach us. They were doing it to leave a message. Every generation wants the next generation to know the knowledge that they possess so that they won't repeat all of the disastrous things that the previous generations have. We need to interpret what we see in front of us. We need to accept that our gateway, our stargate, our wormhole is through the sun. It's through the hole in the sun. We have seen the hole. We have satellite imagery of the hole. We can see in the hole. And when you look in the hole of that sun, you see galaxies. You have to look in the blackness of the hole within. It's not sparks or embers from the sun. It is a gateway to another universe, to other beings. They traverse through these gateways. These are the wormholes. You need energy, frequency, and vibration. We learned that last night watching Skinwalker Ranch, right? So you get the right frequency, which I've been telling everybody. Everything revolves around frequencies. I've said that. I've been saying it for years. It's all about frequencies. When you get the right frequency, you get the right amount of energy, you get the right vibration, things happen. This opens gateways. This is what was taught to us that we refuse to accept. We refuse knowledge. We are the only species that could consider itself intelligent without accepting knowledge. How do we consider ourselves intelligent when we refuse to accept knowledge? We will never advance unless we get our mind around the fact that we are greater than what they want us to be. You are stronger than you believe. You are greater than you believe. You have the ability to do so much. They don't want you to believe in yourself. They don't want you to look outside of the rules and the boxes they have laid before you. They want you to be as dumb as you can be. That's how they win. That's how they control the planet. That's how they control us. They take everything from us and give us scraps. They know the truth. They will not let us know the truth. Because if we knew the truth, we would never let them be in charge. And that, my friends, is the big dilemma. Do we allow ourselves and our fellow human beings to stay asleep? Are we going to turn this show off and forget everything we just learned? That's on you. You are the only one that can control what you believe. All I can do is tell you what I can see and what is. I can give you an idea of how that face of the sun is a circuit. If you look at it closely, it is exactly a circuit. And this is not a foretelling of what's to come. This is a way of telling us how we can get through the sun. Technology can get us through that sun. And this is their way. They already had this technology. They knew one day we would again have this technology. And we would then be able to put things together and join them wherever they go, wherever they've gone, wherever they are. We need to accept the reality that we are in a technological age. We possess the ability to do greater things than we see. Life isn't about cell phones and television. Life isn't about your satellite radio. It's not about your Candy Crush. Life is about getting further. Life is about joining other life as we look at the black hole in the sun. There is a door. Are we brave enough to push for our knowledge to take us there? Do we trust the fact that we together, we can do this? We look at all the signs and everything that's left behind, and it's not a coincidence that these beings that possess this earth before us all had the same concept. They built the same things. How? How? Tell me how. Pyramids are all over the earth. Tell me how. They didn't know each other according to our history. They couldn't see each other. They didn't know other lands existed like this. The ocean was the end of the world, according to the teachings we've been taught. So how? How? Because they had more technology than we do. Where'd they go? Well, the ones that didn't accept the reality stayed behind. And what happens when you stay behind? You are now the new civilization because the other one is destroyed. They ruined everything they left behind because they left it with people that refused to believe in the truth. And then we had to start over with a bunch of beings that refused to accept the truth. So all of that knowledge got lost. And again, we're coming to the precipice of our intelligence. Are we going to get left behind? Are we going to move forward? This all lies within us. We have got to wake up and realize life isn't what we see. Life is greater than what we believe. Every civilization before us has crumbled because they refused the knowledge that was given to them by beings greater than themselves. And the ones that accepted the knowledge and the truth escaped. And they're somewhere else, leaving behind the ones that refuse to believe. We are not alone. We've never been alone. We're closer to the next universe than we believe we are. We need to accept reality that our brains, our knowledge can get us there. You guys take care.